Today's topic is comparing external happiness versus inner peace, and I've decided to throw all structure out the window, and this episode is just going to be a lot of rambling. So this channel is always based around suffering, self-help, and so on and so forth, realities of life, hard truths. So why this topic is so interesting to me is because you either choice, which is external happiness or inner peace, you can use to cope with suffering and the hardships of life. So this is why I wanted to compare which one would seem more effective. So on the one hand, you have external happiness, which is what I call the purchasing of material items to make yourself feel good, and everything involved with screen time, which is television, video games, social media, computer, phone use, all that good stuff. And its counterpart is spirituality, whether it's finding God or reading self-help books, working on yourself to become a better person, establishing a strong mindset, emotional stability, stuff like that. Here's the part that's so crazy. You would think it'd be so easy to say that inner peace is more important. Just invest in yourself and work on yourself, and those are the kinds of lessons that'll last longer, and those are the kinds of mindsets that'll get you through life when things get hard. But I think there's a stronger case for external happiness, and I don't think you can take away how good a person feels when they buy something that they earned or when they worked really hard to get what they want. External happiness has an upside in it that if that's what you want is expensive things, whether it's cars or materials, or hey, you want to get a home for yourself, by all means, that will put you in a really good mindset to work hard and sacrifice and do what you need to do to see your goals realized. And I can't even say the same for myself, which I lean towards the side of inner peace. One of the problems with this whole inner peace thing is that sometimes money doesn't really matter to me, or I don't want it to matter, because I feel that money comes and goes, and the materials that you buy comes and goes. And concerning screen time, as much happiness as that can give you, I do feel like if you're going through something in life, the moment you turn that screen off, all your problems are still there, and you may or may not need to address these things. So again, it seems like kind of a problem to be overly spiritual, because once you realize that certain things aren't as important as you thought, for example, in America, it just simply isn't possible that you can just sit around all day, not work, and just live a comfortable life. Even if money doesn't mean anything to you, I don't believe that you can live that life out. Definitely not here. It's not a part of our culture. So I'm pretty sure obviously that the answer is balance, but again, I think it's more fun to compare. I think it's possible to compare because there are some people that truly believe that external happiness is way more important than inner peace. And I think if you find enough people, you'll see that others believe in inner peace more. So going back to external happiness, yeah, I will never deny that I even purchase things that make me feel good. And to put the case for external happiness, let's just say you bought something expensive. In other words, something that is lasting. If that material item is attached to your happiness and it makes you feel good or confident in yourself or good things like that, the fact that that item will last a couple years says a lot. Yeah, even if it grows sentimental value, you can't take that away. And I would even argue so much as to say that some material things can actually outlast a mindset, a positive mindset, because we all know that as life messes with you here and there unexpectedly at any time, you can have your whole day challenged or rocked. and just everything gets thrown out of balance. So for those things, it takes a while. For the times that things get challenging, it can take a little while to get your head back on. Or you want to talk about more serious things like breakups or stuff like that, anything that involves heartbreak, that'll take forever to that can possibly take forever to deal with and cope with. So you compare the comfort and the ease of just living a chill life and buying things you want. That seems rather easygoing, and if you compare that to when life messes with you and how much time it would take to get over things or to work on yourself, it doesn't seem like a bad idea to just seek a peaceful life and just buy what you want. And let's go back to screen time. There's nothing exactly wrong with watching something that makes you happy or entertains you. You have the right to do so. If I had to criticize it, this is for myself, by the way. One of my problems is that sometimes I'll spend hours on my phone watching videos that have no value to me, in the sense that it'll help me grow or help me learn something. It's just something that'll make me laugh or just the most random things. And again, I have nothing against it, but for myself, I have a problem because there's only so much time that I can spend on there that I'll start to regret. One of my biggest complaints is that when I was younger, I used to play video games a lot. I've been playing for over 20 years, and yeah, I had fun, and I met friends through it, and it's been positive for the most part. Nothing exactly wrong, but what I'm going through right now is, I guess you can call it a midlife crisis, where I'm nearing the age of 32, and the problem that I have is if I could add up all the video game time and all the online video time and all the phone game time and all the television time, probably hundreds of hours. And it's my fault, for doing so, but I can't help but imagine what my life would be like if I had hundreds of hours invested in bettering myself, investing in a future or a skill, learning how to play an instrument, something that could have produced something that I can show right now, which is to say, all the hundreds of hours I've spent on a screen, I have nothing to show for it at the moment. So that's one gripe I have with external happiness. I would like to clarify that I definitely am not preaching that anyone that's choosing to do any of this stuff is wrong. It's just the way I feel at this point in my life. Another problem I had was drugs and smoking. Again, it's not so much the actions. I mean, of course they can be perceived as bad, but this all has to do with time, to be honest. If I would have spent those years on myself, or maybe if I would have gone back to school, I could have been in a better position. I take responsibility for that. So now that we're on the topic of time, I do want to mention how this episode even came about in the first place. And it's about one day I was thinking that as a full-time employee, I was counting the hours in a day. And it was roughly 8 hours of work. If all goes well, 8 hours of sleep. That's 16 hours in a 24-hour period. And when you count the time of commuting, eating, and literally time spent on a screen for me, which is to let the time pass, I don't know how much time in an individual day that I've spent in true happiness or just living life to the fullest. I don't feel that way most times. And if I can stretch the idea, I already put this out in another video, but it's no secret that as we get older, time really moves fast. And as you get older, it moves faster. And I had come up with this theory about why I feel it goes that way. So I believe that time is measured in impressions, or basically memorable life moments. For example, April 1st, you hang out with your friends. Let's just say it was a concert. Something highly memorable gets imprinted in your head. It's a good memory. and you can go back on it. So now, after that, you go back to this repetitious cycle, which I believe is common for a lot of people, and that is to go to work, go to sleep, eat, and just keep going through that pattern over and over and over again. And I know realistically we get days off in between, but sometimes we don't always go out. So, for example, again, now let's just say it's May 1st, and finally I go out again and do something impressionable or memorable. I'll just say this time it was a theme park. And so my theory is that from April 1st to May 1st, from one impression to the next, everything in between was just one big blur, because it was repetitious and it all felt the same, and it all basically felt like the same day or one day. And what has happened now is a 1 month span has felt like it's been congested or compressed into just one day. So in a 1 month span, 2 impressions or 2 memorable life experiences, I want to press that idea even further and press it to 4 months, 5 months, or 6 months. And let's just say in that time, a 6 month span, you've only had 4 or 5 memorable impressions. This is why when you reflect on your memory, I feel that time feels like it moves fast. Basically, in other words, it's not living life to the fullest. And I'm not saying everyone's like this or even anyone's like this, but I am like this. Not even all the time, but sometimes. So, I don't know, I found it interesting. And from trying to get a grasp on all this time, this is when I asked the question of, now I'm going to work, I'm working 8 hours, 40 hours a week, so on and so forth. And sometimes I will spend that money on material things. Sometimes I don't make purchases that can justify all the time that it took to make the money. And that's my gripe again. I want to talk about inner peace right now and why I like that so much. I like inner peace because, honestly, of all the most memorable moments of my life and the happiest moments of my life with friends, hanging out, having fun, all that, concerts, meet and greets with stars, for some reason, for myself, the most memorable moments are still moments of suffering, heartbreak, heartache, crying, and all that, because in those moments I was forced to reconsider everything I was doing, reconsider the way that I was viewing life. So I like inner peace because it can offer you new life perspectives that'll last for now a very long time, if not forever. Those things get imprinted into your heart and or your soul, and it's so useful in the future when things come up again. So there's that saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, and I do believe in that. And I also believe that at the end of every point of suffering, strength lies at the end of it. All the suffering that I've been through has put me at an interest with things like psychology and self-help and watching videos where it might help you to train your mind. Basically, all of the main growth, whether it's spiritual, mental, or emotional, it's all taken place because of hardships that I've gone through. And again, I really think that these lessons will last a very long time, and I think they're highly effective. I don't think you can put a price on it. One thing that is so important is, from a spiritual standpoint, you start to realize that you are not the center of the universe, and you're not the most important thing. And I know that in this culture, it is wise to see yourself that way and to prioritize yourself in such a way and prioritize your feelings or emotions before you put others, but that's not what I believe in necessarily. It goes off and on, but again, so I think it's helpful that now if you can see life in such a way where other people have importance, if not just as much importance as yourself, you can start to live your life in such a way where you take other people's, emotions and how they feel into consideration. And I think that's actually a really good thing. And it helps communicate with others, and it helps interactions go smoother when you take how they feel into account. If we're talking about mental strength now, I've been through things in life that have broke me, and I had no choice but to not just get over it, but find out how I can make sure that it never happened again. And in doing that, I have learned very valuable things. And it's really hard right now to say it very specifically, but all I can say is that, if someone comes along and messes with my vibe or messes with me, I have a pretty solid perspective on how to either put aside my negative reaction or negate any further conflict with that person. I find that to be valuable. I think, honestly, it goes back to just considering how other people feel. Now I want to talk about emotional stability. This whole journey of inner peace, it's a combination of life perspectives and the spiritual thing. It helps you become emotionally stable because you start to see that things that used to hurt you, they don't have to, and they shouldn't. I think to put external happiness and inner peace together and make them coincide, I know that one way is for your job or your career, is to truly, do what you love. If you can do something that feeds your mind and your soul and all that, I'm sure money can be generated from that. Everyone has a different calling in life, and I think for those that are brave enough to chase their dreams and chase their calling, there's money in it. I do think it's a different case altogether when you're working a job that either causes you stress frequently, or a job that you're not exactly satisfied with, and or a job that is not your calling. That can hurt a little, and that can make external happiness become a problem because you're not in a situation that keeps you happy all the time. In fact, you're in a situation that may or may not be destructive or challenging to your positive mindset. And you do that frequently enough, and I'm sure it'll get to you. And I think that having stress in general is the kind of things that will make people seek external happiness, whether it's drinking to relax, or smoking a cigarette to relax, or smoking anything else to relax, or if you're stressed out because your job, that's when you can go on and buy something to make you feel good and just seek ways to feel better. And I use external happiness in this case because it'll take a very long time to structure the proper mindset to deal with a job that'll give you stress frequently. And so I feel that external happiness is a quicker way to make yourself feel good. And if I can be rude for a little while, for a moment when I was considering this episode, I was calling external happiness pretty much a band-aid or a temporary relief, in that, again, if you're going through a bad time, I believe that the right way to go about it is to find out what the problem is, analyze it, and see what the best way to approach it is. But I feel like that answer lies within inner peace. It's a mental thing, and it's a perspective thing. I don't think buying a gift for someone can just fix something. So that I had a problem with external happiness. But another thing I do want to say is that, I believe that a person can go their whole life not caring at all about spirituality, and external happiness can actually keep them going for the rest of their life. It could keep them happy for the rest of their life, and they're content with that. I have more to say. Material things are temporal. Yes, they have sentimental value, but they are inanimate objects, so it would be strange to see them as anything else. And I also want to say that external happiness can lead to destructive behavior, as in doing things in excess just to deal with life's problems or challenges or heartbreak, etc. Another problem I have is I've been watching a few videos recently, and I've seen external happiness get criticized and it being called a bottomless pit, as in no matter how many things you buy, no matter how many things you watch, you will just never be satisfied. This is why you'll never be satisfied spiritually or in your heart from all these things. But again, I live in America, and there's no way in hell that I'm just gonna somehow live a life where I don't have to work because I feel like working is it's not spiritual. There's no growth in it. Or if I don't believe in this money thing, I can't just not have a job. So believe me, I'm not trying to say that I'm gonna ditch it altogether. What I do want to say about internal happiness is that the path is definitely not as attractive. I mean, it requires a person to be willing to admit their faults, even on the daily, maybe, that you have to criticize yourself and say what's wrong with yourself, and you have to face yourself. I can see that being a very hard process. No, maybe it's not such a popular decision. This also involves searching for hard truths, whether it's admitting that your partner's not the best person for you, or some of your friends are not the best people to have in your life, or maybe your family member did something to you that you don't want to admit. That's part of the whole inner peace thing, is seeking truths that are not always comfortable. And I know that one real big part that is really hard, and I struggle with it every single day, is trying to kill my ego. That's a very hard thing to deal with. So again, this is another thing that'll make inner peace a hard path to follow or to want to do. So again, with these two topics, I believe that the easy answer is balance. Don't do too much of one or the other. At the same time, I can infinitely, forever, just think about comparing these two and trying to figure out which one is more important. It can go either way, but again, for myself, at this point in my life, I stand on the side of inner peace, which is emotional stability, mental strength, and spiritual consciousness. But at the age of 31, it took me this long to figure out. Again, even feeling like external happiness is not the best thing for me. Every day I'm still gonna buy stuff that I like and that I think looks cool and that I think might look good if I put it on, or just buying anything that will make me feel good. I'm still gonna do all that stuff. This goes back to my admission of being an imperfect person. So yeah, I don't mean to criticize anyone that chooses external happiness as their primary choice. In addition to time, this whole episode was mainly about how these two things can be helpful in moments of suffering or heartbreak or hardship. I still think that depending on the person, either choice can be highly effective, but it's up to them. So I do believe that this is the end of the episode. Thanks.